Hey kids, Anderson Cowan here, talking a little bit about the new Candyman. Saw it last night, and there will be opinions. All right, so I'm coming at this thing as though I am not a horror fan, which isn't hard because I'm not a horror fan. So does this work for somebody who's not a horror fan? I'm sure that the horror fans have their opinions. In fact, I know they do because I read a bunch of them last night after seeing the movie. And there was all sorts of people that are giving this 1 star, 2 star, 3 stars because in their words, it doesn't compare to the original. For my money, if this was only compared to the original Candyman, 1992's Candyman, this might be the greatest movie ever made. However, that's not the only thing that we're going to compare it to, so it has to be compared to all the other movies that exist as well. So it is not the greatest movie ever made. However, it is better than I expected. So like many movies that I'll be talking about here, I'm going, like if they're superhero movies or like genre flicks like this one, that's just a horror movie, I'm going to say, hey, this movie wasn't necessarily made for me, but every movie is actually kind of made for me because I'll watch anything. I watch them all. I love movies. I like to talk about movies, in case you weren't aware of that. I also talk about movies on the Film Vault and CinemAddicts. I talk a lot about movies every single week, and you can find links to that kind of stuff down there below. But with movies like this, yeah, it wasn't necessarily made for a guy like me because I don't really get horror. I went through it when I was a little bit younger as like a rite of passage and like, you know, can I bear this? Can I take this? And like friends and I would get together. I'm kind of past, not that I'm better or anything. I just don't, I admittedly don't like being terrified. Like if I liked that, I would love to see horror movies. I don't like to be scared. Like it gives me the same feeling as though I lost my wallet. Like, you know, you check for your wallet and it's gone. You get that sinking feeling and it's like your heart stops for a second. I don't like to induce that in myself in theaters. However, you know, I like a good elevated horror flick, and that's what this one appeared to be via the trailer at least. So what I'm going to get at here is Candyman better than the trailer? Is it worth your hour and 31 minutes? Directed by Nia Nakasta, co-written by Jordan Peele, and you can tell right off the bat, this feels very, very Jordan Peele. So this Candyman is a direct sequel to the original Candyman. It's ignoring all of the films that have come since that. I think there's 3 or 4 total. And the original Candyman kind of bombed at the box office, but then it found a cult following, and people love that original Candyman. I can tell you this, I saw it when it came out, was not moved by it, and then I also had it on in the background, the original, while I was researching and doing other things. So I wasn't really watching it, but it was how I remembered it, campy, goofy. It's just not my kind of movie. However, the trailer for this one with the shadow puppets and the art and the style had me excited and interested enough to see it last night and then to cover it here. So we are back at the, the Cabrini Green housing project where the original one took place in Chicago. It's a really bad part of town, and it has since been gentrified. So this takes place 10 years after the towers that were part of Cabrini Green have been razed, leveled, and new high-rises have gone up around it. However, the one-story buildings, the row, still exist, which is kind of cool. And they actually went back to the original location to shoot this one in that original row. And you know, gentrification has occurred, and there's a lot of commentary about that as far as what gentrification does to communities and whether it's good or bad. And you had a lot of cliched, like, you know, white art dealers. So the story is there's an art. There's a girl, a woman who makes her living with art. She's like, I guess, an art dealer. It's neither here nor there, but she's connected in the art world. Her boyfriend is an artist as well. He is the lead, and his work is being judged by these tropey, cliched, douchey white art critics and art dealers. And he has this one guy that he has to make art for. It's in the film world, it would be like producers or distributors, which they're a lot harder to, I guess, illustrate in movies, distributors and, you know, the movie types that kind of screw people when it comes to their art. But, you know, people have been getting screwed for their art for eons. That's just no matter what the art field is. So here we got some tropey white guys that you kind of, and women that you like you're hoping to see them get hooked to death, which you get to see at times, and that's satisfying in a strange way. It's nice to see people die in lavish style on the big screen, people that you would hate in real life. So you get your fair share of that. Also, there's deeper meaning to this movie. There's context. There's a lot of political jargon going on, and I think it might have been ultimately lost on me. I know it bothered a lot of the fans of the original movie from some of the things that I read from them last night. They want politics out of movies. These are the horror fans that love the original Candyman, and to hear them tell it, they really hate the idea of politics or social commentary creeping into movies. Here's the deal. Movies are a huge voice in social commentary. They always have been. They are a kind of a barometer of where we're at as a society. They are a mirror in many ways. They tend to be trendsetters at times, and that's not going away. Nor do I want it to. I mean, I just watched a couple of movies, covered it for CinemAddicts, that were from 1961, and they are movies that if they came out today would be insanely offensive. Amazing. So I love the timestamp of movies and how you can watch a movie and figure out where we were as a culture at the time that they came out. This is no different. However, maybe stuff's going over my head and I'm missing it, but essentially what the story is. So it goes back to the original Candyman. I should also say Clive Barker is the one that created the original character and movie, and there's a little ode to him. One of the characters is reading a Clive Barker book. Of course, Clive Barker, Hellraiser is my favorite of his stuff. But the original guy was in the projects back in like the 70s, and he was an odd dude. He was missing a hand. He had a hook, and cops were finding kids were eating razor blades. I'm sure most of you saw the trailer, and it was in candy, and they thought it was this one guy with a hook, the odd dude that lived in the projects. So they went and they did their police brutality thing, and they killed him right there in the spot. He dies, and then his spirit comes back as Candyman, and there's bees involved, which I've never understood the bees. I'm going to be honest with you. Perhaps I could read about that. And he comes back, and he kills anyone who summons him. So there's a whole lot of like, say his name, say his name, say his name, which obviously harkens back to the Breonna Taylor stuff that we've been seeing, and all of the recent BLM stuff, and all of that weaves into this. The question is this: how clever is it? What is the movie actually saying? Is it a call to arms? Because at times it almost feels like it's a call to arms, which I can get on board with. Like, violence begets violence, and the more brutality at the hand of the white man to minorities, like it's almost suggesting, hey, Candyman comes back and gets his reckoning, and it's a call to arms. If it's a subversive like a message like that, I can kind of get on board with that. But I don't know if that's the message that it's going after here. There's actually a scene, it's kind of interesting, where the lead character, who's an artist, and he's being asked to reinvent himself because everything he's doing is from yesteryear. It's a derivative of his earlier work. So he makes this. He starts getting into the legend of Candyman, and he makes this piece of art where it's the original Candyman guy all bloodied on his face, and you see a bunch of white fists, right? And he shows it to his girlfriend, who is like in the art world, and she's like, hey, it's not really. He's all excited about it. And she's like, it's not really lending itself to kind of any interpretation. It's just right all there. And that's kind of like what this movie was, right? Like, the movie is just... But the style is great. The performances, for the most part, are great. Right in the beginning, the opening title sequence is fantastic, and the score is my favorite of the year. I should have led with the good stuff. I really, really like the score of this thing. In fact, I'm going to download it on my phone because it's haunting. It's fantastic, and the opening titles might be one of my favorite things about the movie. Nathan Stewart Jarrett also, he plays the gay brother. This neighborhood's haunted. I love that dude. That dude rules. And I could have used even more of him. He was the comedic relief, which I also found a lot of true horror fans don't like comedic relief in their movies and their genre picks. And I guess maybe if you're a true horror fan, you just want the slasher porn. You just want the gore, and that's what you're into. Fine. I just, as not being a horror guy, that's not what I'm into, and I like movies to have something to say. I'm just not sure that this one has anything more to say than Us did, and I thought Us was... It's funny because that one scene where she's like, you're not really leaving much to interpretation. It's kind of, pretty literal. It's right there on the nose. Well, I guess what this one's saying is, hey, white people historically have been violent and brutal to minorities, black and brown people, and here's some comeuppance. So maybe it's cathartic in that sense. I know that when Jordan Peele wrote and directed Get Out, he said he wanted to make a horror film for the black audience, which hadn't been done before really properly. And there's definitely elements in this one which I appreciated. There's a scene where one of the lead characters opens, she's in this creepy surroundings, and she opens this door, and it's shot down into a basement. And normally the dumb character would go down into that basement. for no reason at all, and it would be horrifying and terrifying. But she just says, nope, closes the door. That was very funny for me. I enjoyed that. So ultimately, I sat through the credits too, and like at the very end, there's like a call to action with a website you can go to, a Candyman something or other, to help social injustices. I appreciate that they're trying to take this old horror film and reinvent it. And I also like that they just call it Candyman. They don't call it Candyman the Second or Candyman 2, or it's just straight up Candyman. It's like the old one was so insignificant now that we can just rebrand it. And it's not a reboot, it's a new version. And they refer to the original movie quite a bit. So Candyman, beautifully shot. And that opening sequence is great. The opening title sequence, which is just names coming up, but it's shot upside down of skyscrapers, and all the new buildings have gone up in the neighborhood. I really enjoyed that, and I was in it until about halfway through, and I felt like one foot was in, changing perceptions. I'm not sure what perceptions they were trying to change, because it was saying, it was an age-old story of the haves beating down the have-nots, and then the other foot was we've got to appease our horror fanatics here, who are obviously going to show up, and give them some real bloodlust. So ultimately, I don't really say yes or no. I'm glad I saw it. Never see it again. All right, Candyman. Thanks for watching.